So help our listeners understand a little bit about yourself, like who you are, where you're from, a little bit about your background, your history, and how did you get into this role?
Okay. So been policing 25 years. First 2 years in New Orleans, where I'm from.
We're going to forgive you if ever that.
That's okay. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Shannon James, President and CEO of the Aerotropolis Atlanta Alliance. We're excited to have you join us today during our new AERO ATL podcast. And we're excited today to have my friend Jon Antoine, who is the Director for Public Safety for the Aerotropolis Atlanta CIDs. Jon, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, Shannon.
That's right, man. Now, listen, for those of you who may not know Jon, he's pretty well known around here for sure. No doubt about it. When you know him, you'll never forget him. So help our listeners understand a little bit about yourself, like who you are, where you're from, a little bit about your background, your history, and how did you get into this role?
Okay. So been policing 25 years. First 2 years in New Orleans, where I'm from.
We're going to forgive you if ever that.
That's okay. Yeah. Then did the rest of the time in Clayton County.
Okay.
Worked in every department in Clayton County with the exception of the solicitor's office. So started out as a general patrolman, went on to a traffic unit. Most fun I ever spent was the 3 years I spent in homicide.
Oh, wow.
And then just got a real good opportunity to learn a lot about the administration side. So I spent the majority of my career in administration between the police department and the sheriff's office and the DA's office.
Wow.
Retired 4 years ago. Got this great opportunity to come over to the CID while it was being birthed.
Yeah.
And got a real good opportunity to see what I had heard about, but never had really got a chance to experience other than knowing police officers who worked for Fulton County and East Point, College Park at that point, but really getting boots on the ground and being able to work with those troops.
Oh, man, seasoned vet. And to hear you mention the area which compromises the Aerotropolis, obviously you know this industry, right? This is what you do.
Right.
And so now that you've, like you mentioned, stepped into this role, like you are literally creating, what this role and responsibility look like as the first director for the Aerotropolis CIDs. Help our listeners understand more about your role and your responsibilities.
So my role is basically think of it as a police chief of a very small town because what we are here to do is we're here to help supplement the police department and the other security agencies that are in and around the area.
Right.
So one of the first tasks when I first came was how was I going to deal with the police chiefs that were already inside of those cities in the Aerotropolis. Fortunately for me, at the time, all of them were transitioning. So when I first started, they either had interim tags or they were actually still looking for police chiefs. So we kind of all got hired together.
Nice.
So I knew some from past history working with them and then made quick friends with those I didn't know. So it allowed us all to come together and really understand what it is we need to do, not just for the policing side of it, but also for the community side of it. The one thing that gets lost, and I learned by being in administration of the police department, is the impact that the police officers and the police department have on economic development. The great thing was all of those chiefs had that same idea, and they knew what their role was going to be in economic development. We just need to figure out how to get each other there.
Wow. That's huge, man. So you're working with, and the way I understand it, you're basically working with the local chiefs for the local police departments that basically represent the area of the community improvement district, right?
Correct.
Only within that boundary. Help our listeners understand some of those chiefs or areas that you're working with.
Right. So the total boundary is 15.9 square miles. So it runs from as far as Merck at Camp Creek, all the way down to the GICC campus. Encompasses the whole airport and around the airport to the Clayton County side, where it takes over, where the two CIDs, Airport West and Airport South, come together and create the Aerotropolis. On the Airport South side, it's Phoenix Boulevard off of West Fayetteville all the way up to Forest Parkway and 85.
Wow.
So it's a huge swath of area. But the advantage was being able to come in and seeing what the needs were going to be to assist those departments was my executive director, Gerald McDowell, allowing me to pretty much so just go out and see what I could do with inside the confines of my budget, which allowed me to hire a private security force which is called Force Inc. Security.
Force Inc.
If you're in the area, you see them in the little smart cars. They are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week inside the CID. They are security unarmed. They are strictly observe and report. What they do is they reach back out to the local security companies that they may see something happening on their properties. They can respond to those as such. But mostly they are here to make the 911 calls, make sure the police officers respond to whatever they're saying. And they're there for things that inside the Aerotropolis for those members. If you need someone to walk you to your car at night, they're there. If you want to make sure that there's an officer waiting for you when you get there in the morning, that's what they're there for. Also, the Fulton County Police Department, they have a very interesting dynamic. They use their retired police officers as patrol also. So the police chief at the time, Gary Stiles, and the current police chief, Daryl Halbert, have allowed me to continue to use those RPOPs, retired police officers, as security and patrol inside of the CID. They, too, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These are still men and women who are still, even though they're retired, they are still post-certified. They carry weapons. They have arrest powers. They ride, and they're inside the CID daily. The benefit of having retired police officers, and I'm speaking as one, it's a lot. We aren't as quick to make the arrest. We're a lot easier to have a conversation with, talk to someone who may be doing minor violations, someone who might be soliciting money on the corner. That's just not safe. That's not so much a nuisance problem. We just want to get those people out of a gore area, or especially summertime.
Yeah.
You see them selling water. It's just not a safe location with all of the development we're doing, especially around 285. Heavy machinery and those kind of constructions are telling what's going on in the ground. So it's not so much of a harassment from the police. It's more of a, hey, listen, we see what you're doing, but just not here. This is not a safe place to be doing it at.
Man, you just put a lot of good information out there in regards to working with the local law enforcement. So the public safety director, in your role, you're also working with the chiefs in all of the cities in which you mentioned, right? But we also have a outsourced mechanism where we're working with a private company to also patrol the area and identify, out of the ordinary kind of activity. And then you mentioned, if they needed help getting access or in, or or not feeling as safe. So how do they go about that? If they were, if they're in an area that's late at night and they're leaving their jobs and they're like, hey man, I just don't feel safe. So how would they go about making that connection?
So what we've done is every business owner and property owner inside the CID has received a handout, collateral that has got the CID phone numbers on it and the two phones that are inside the force cars. They can call those phone numbers, and then the officer will respond to them. They just tell them what the need is. If it's something that security guard can't handle, if it's something that needs to be turned over to the police, let's say maybe it's a flat tire or something, that officer can come by and stand by with them while they get somebody out to change their tire, or just stay with them while they're waiting on other people to come to the office. We see a lot of that, especially around this time of year when it doesn't get daylight till about 7:30.
Right.
But people are coming to work at 5:45 and 6.
Yeah.
FedEx Trade Networks is really where this kind of started off of North Commerce. I happened to come to work one morning about 6:15 and saw a car in their parking lot. And I called over my contact there and I said, listen, I saw some car sitting in your parking lot. I sent a police officer over there. Said it was one of the ladies who works there. I said, she can't get in? He says, no, she doesn't get in. She can't open the door until 7. So I said, why don't we just send a security guard over there to sit with her till she can get in? And he was just shocked that you could do that.
Wow. And
so that was our luxury, is that because we're able to control their whereabouts and direct their patrols, made her feel safe for the 2 or 3 months she did that.
Wow.
And then it gave that officer a good chance to be able to be seen by the bad guy.
Yep.
And definitely stay away from the area. So.
Oh, that's huge, man. That's a huge perk to join the CID, right? If you're a commercial business owner within the CID.
Absolutely.
Because that's an added incentive in case you're concerned about the safety of your workers. But I love the fact that we've got not only off-duty policemen kind of patrolling those high-risk areas, but we're working with private companies, right? So the colors of the vehicles are like black,
white, gray, red, and then the Fulton County Police Department vehicles, they have allowed us to mark those with AACID
really?
On the front fenders.
Okay.
So if you see those, and because Fulton County has reduced in size, if you see a Fulton County police car, it's probably ours.
Okay.
Because there's not too many of them still floating around this area of town.
Right. We've got one that hangs out in the back of our office all the time. That's
yes,
why
sir.
I park right next to it.
That's right. That's right.
Easy deterrent. So that's really cool, man. I don't think our listeners maybe even understood that we were partnering with the local law enforcement, that we had, off duty, we had, private companies. And I think one place that gets a ton of attention, obviously, is our marketplace, right? Because it's so much activity. There's so much opportunity there that, ultimately things happen, right, when you've got a lot of activity. So some of our listeners may not know that our off-duty or our private companies are patrolling around that marketplace, right? So it kind of helped them understand what that looks like.
So because there is such a large area, the CID, that 15 square miles, they can't be everywhere at every place.
Right. It's a big stretch, man.
As neither can the police departments.
Right.
But what we try to do is we try to make it easier on the police departments by being in those areas when we know what usually the hot times are for the police. Anytime there's a shift change, you're going to be taking police cars off the road. So we understand that, and we try and spend our time during those shift changes in the marketplace, in the Virginia Avenue corridor around the hotels areas, which I like to see as more of a restaurant and district. Spent a lot of time over near the MARTA stations to help MARTA police. So it's not just the locals; it's the agencies you don't even think about. We have a really great relationship with Georgia State Patrol, so that gets them in off of 285, and then they do write their tickets. But the one thing about them is when they're out and about, even as a retired police officer, if a police car pulls behind me, I don't panic. It's something about seeing a Georgia State police car, you will definitely do right at the speed limit.
Right.
It's something about that image. So that does help. That not only helps with the deterrent, but it also helps that those that aren't doing anything, how much comfortable they feel knowing that there is police in the area. As we record, we're a week away from the Super Bowl.
Right.
So I've been doing a lot of work with the Secret Service, with the City of Atlanta Police Department, Georgia Bureau of Investigations, because this really is a global event. It's not just these two teams that are coming in and their fan bases. Because we are an international city, we're coming from all over.
They are.
So it's good to know that I can pick up the phone and call my good friend at the City of East Point, Chief Gardner, but I can also pick up the phone and call, at Atlanta Regional Commission, Greg Mason, who was the Homeland Security representative. So when I need to know those little secrets, I can give him a call and say, hey, am I going to be bombarded this week? How am I looking? So
that's huge, man. That's huge when you can have that kind of reach, right? And that's right here within our Aerotropolis. You and I were talking before we jumped into the podcast about some of the success stories that a lot of people just don't hear about, they don't see, feel, because it's not tangible. Right. And so help our listeners hear or get more insight on some of the efforts that our effort between our public safety and that you've been able to initialize in our market that has become successful. Right, that is a story that may have gone untold. Or it could have been told. Who knows? But I'd love for our listeners to hear about some of the success stories we've had.
Right. So what happened initially was what our biggest successes when I came, there was just a lack of communication among the police departments. It wasn't their fault. It's just that you have these departments that, even though they're neighbors, they run off a different radio system, so they can't get in touch with one another.
Right.
So what we did was I brought them together, and we have monthly public safety meetings.
Yeah, those are huge meetings too.
Right.
Yeah.
So and they're well attended. We bring in the private security, we bring in the public safety. We get a chance to see what trends we're seeing in the area in crime. And what this does now is this has put direct supervisors in touch with each other. So now. From that, we have seen Atlanta Police and East Point Police do joint safety checks in certain areas, which from that yields the citations, but also yields wanted people arrested. It also helps them find stolen vehicles. So we get a really good opportunity for them to work hand in hand, which is what you need, because when you have that communication, it grows from that. Don't think that these bad guys don't communicate.
Oh, yeah.
They speak all the time. And so we have to make sure that we're doing the same thing on our side. This is offense and defense.
That's powerful, man.
So what we were talking about before is over Christmas, we dealt with putting some added cars out on the road, paying officers extra to come out and work additional hours. And what that did on the marketplace side, on the Atlanta side, over Christmas, we saw 2 cars that were broken into.
Wow.
That's huge.
That's huge, man.
Because any place you have a huge population, you're going to see an increase in crime.
Yep.
I don't care. I don't care if you're sitting out in the middle of Albany, Georgia.
Shout out to Albany, Georgia, 229.
You're going to see somebody at Albany State is getting their car broken into just because there's a large population of vehicles there.
True.
If you ride down to a dead-end street that has no homes on it,
right,
you're not going to see any crime. There's nothing there to steal. The bad guys are not very hard to figure out. They're going to go where the target-rich environments are. Camp Creek Marketplace has some of the largest and busiest businesses by volume.
That's right.
The Chick-fil-A is the largest Chick-fil-A by volume in the nation. The Target is one of the top 3 Targets in the nation.
TGI Fridays.
TGI Fridays. These are not, people don't realize what you actually have in your community. You are spending your dollars in places where you are truly making an impact. And because you are using those dollars in this community to make that impact, the CIDs, the Alliance, we want to make sure that we're doing everything to support you and those agencies around you to make sure you feel safe while you're there.
Man, that's powerful, man. I hope our listeners was able to soak that up because just to hear about that activity just makes me feel safer, to be honest with you. And hopefully they understand that efforts are happening outside of just the standard 9 to 5 or 5 to 12 or whatever shifts are going on. You guys are thinking very strategically, and you're getting into the minds of some of the criminals, man. You got to think like a criminal, right?
Absolutely.
And I love to hear that. So I want our listeners to hear, and I know we're talking about the marketplace a lot, but the city of East Point is the second largest by population city in South Fulton. And so, to hear about some of the crime statistics that are happening that are going south for the city is a testimony to not only local leadership, Mayor Dina Holiday Ingram and the chief, but also our partnership that you just mentioned, right? Which speaks to how this collaboration is making things happen. Can you speak more to what specifically with East Point, what's helping drive those numbers down so much? It is crazy to see how much crime has dropped in East Point. Right,
and that is truly the testament of the men and women of the East Point Police Department. It's a luxury to be able to sit in here in the safety and surroundings of the podcast, but I'm not the one that has to be in the police car anymore. So I thank them for what they do, as well as all the officers and the men and women of all our agencies we deal with.
Thank you.
But definitely, East Point has done some things on the technology side that has put them above and beyond. One of the things at the CID that we started is a program of video cloud-based surveillance system. So it is something that is available to all of the business and property owners inside of East Point currently. And what you do is you can reach out to me at Jon Antoine at AeroCIDs.com, and I can put you in touch with the police department. And what we're doing is we are allowing for your cameras, or you're allowing for your cameras to have a direct feed to my cameras and the police department's cameras, so we can all monitor those. Now, they're not being monitored 24 hours a day. There's just no manpower for that. But what it allows for us to happen is if you have a crime that's committed on your property as a business owner, let's use Anytime Restaurant. Well, Anytime Restaurant at 3 o'clock in the morning, the owner or the manager's not there. So what happens is the police officer has to go in, he asks for the videotape, and either the person doesn't know how to get the videotape out or doesn't have access to the link to send it to the police officer. Come back in 2 days, you can get it, and they finally go back and get it, and then after 2 days, they got it. They write a report. It sends to the detective. It sits on the detective's desk for 2 days. Then the weekend comes. By the time he or she gets to that film, it's 6 days later.
Long gone.
Well, what this allows to happen is the same scenario. If you say, "Well, I'm a partner in the video surveillance system," they go back to their office. You allow them to download the tape. They download and they can watch it 100 times.
Wow.
So it's real time crime reporting. It also allows them to let them get right back on the street. And a lot of times, these criminals aren't far.
Right.
They haven't gone far, and if they've gotten away with it once, they'll come back.
Yep.
So it allows them to really get an opportunity to pinpoint who these people are. What I love about them is especially when you see the crisp and clear videos, and we put them on the news.
Now you're
because
talking.
it's definitely them.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way
Front
around
and center.
it. That's it. So the technology that we're using is one of the biggest things. We've made it available to the other cities. I'm going to have a meeting in a couple days with College Park Police Department.
Nice.
And I'm hoping that more and more of these cities are going to want to partner with this because it's a very nominal fee to the police departments. It is if they're the platform is through Genetec, and if they are a Genetec client, the police department, if they're a Genetec client, for them to have every single officer access these cameras, it's $165 a year.
Wow. $165
a year. So every single person can monitor those cameras. If they're not a Genetec client, then it is a fee of around $140 per user. So if they do 5 users, it's a fee that's under $700.
That is huge, man.
Right. So and we were able to work that out, and then you have a lot of different partners in with the camera system. You can lease the cameras, you can buy the cameras from reputable companies, Georgia Power, Comcast. There's a slew of others. The important part is we don't care who you buy your camera from. We don't have a dog in the fight. We just want to be able to make sure that we can access those views, make sure the police department can access those views, use those views for evidentiary purposes, and really get an opportunity to do some 21st century policing.
Listen, John, you're speaking vision to the area. I love that. Would you say that's, and I'm thinking more about the future of the Aerotropolis Atlanta CIDs, would you say that's more thinking towards the future, having more technology-based opportunities to continue to cut down on crime? Or, I just wanted to make sure that our listeners hear, and I feel like I just heard it, the vision of the future.
That is it. It has to be technology. This is the first step. The next step will be working with those departments at getting more license plate readers in the area. So as cars come in, these police departments have license plate readers on their cars. That's going to be a hit.
Yes, it will.
So they can just follow the cars all the way through. The whole point of this is to make sure that the criminal doesn't want to come in this area. Don't make them feel comfortable coming to the area.
That's right.
Send them south. Send them all the way down to Fayette County. They're not in the Aerotropolis. So,
No offense, Fayette.
As a resident, I say, just send them past my house.
Fayette does a good job down there, though.
So, and they do. And that's the positive is that this is not just one agency.
Right.
We're not sharing it. If the bad guy's hidden in Camp Creek, he will go down to the pavilion in Fayetteville. He will go over to Arbor Place in Douglasville. But once we know he's in the area, all this information is going out to all these different departments.
Right.
So now you don't want to come back to East Point because they're looking for you. No, all of them are looking for you. Our goal is that 159 counties in Georgia, you get that most wanted list.
Nowhere to hide.
That's it.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, well, John, for our listeners, man, you've done an amazing job. And I'd love for our listeners to hear anything that you would like them to know that we may have not talked about during this podcast. Is there anything you want to share with them?
Definitely reach out to us. Go to our website. The Aerotropolis CIDs website is full of information. It's aerocids.com. Right now, it will give you a great update on the project that's going on 285, the Diamond Divergent Interchange.
That's right.
It'll have the lane closures. It'll have the weather condition closures. So it's constantly changing. But you get a chance to see the vision, the true vision of board members, the vision of the commercial property owners, neighbors. But really reach out and contact us. There's no question is too big, too small. I'm going to try and answer it the best I can. And if I can't do it, I'm going to try and put you in a position with somebody who can do it.
Hey, listen, you heard it yourself from Jon Antoine. I mean, our fearless leader and our public safety director who, as you can tell, has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we're lucky to have you, man. Seriously, I want to thank you
I
for joining us
appreciate
today, John.
No, thank you for having me.
Seriously, and for our listeners, I know that we ask a lot of questions within our time period here, but if you're listening and you want to ask questions, you want to get engaged, and you want to connect with us, reach out to us. Go to our website, as you heard Jon Antoine mention, AeroCIDs.org, also or .com.
.com.
Also for us, the AERO ATL, AERO ATL.org is our website. You can email us at info@aeroatl.org. Join us. Reach out to us. Stay connected to us. Subscribe to our podcast. You can go to our website. We're right there waiting for you, aeroatl.org. Follow us. Join our social medias. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook. We're all over the place. So we want you to follow us, okay? And I hope you enjoyed our segment today with Jon Antoine, the Public Safety Director for the AERO CIDs, which encompasses 2 counties. All right, so he's got a ton to fill.
6 cities.
That's right, 2 counties, 6 cities, everyone. So as you can tell, he's extremely connected. And I hope our listeners also caught something valuable that I caught as well, that our organization is really creating this ecosystem that we're all working together now. We're communicating. And so when you start operating as a region, big things start to happen, and we're seeing that. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We hope that you tune in more for our next and upcoming podcast, here on and so forth. Shannon James, your president and CEO of the Aerotropolis Atlanta Alliance, where we want to help you land here and take off.